A breaking news alert shakes the region. Chinese Coast Guard vessels have unleashed powerful water cannons on a Philippine supply ship near Reed Bank, escalating an already tense standoff in the South China Sea. The world watches in real time as the confrontation unfolds, with every move broadcast across global news networks. In response, U.S. Navy destroyers swiftly move into position, their presence a clear signal that America is ready to defend its interests and those of its allies. The arrival of these warships adds a new layer of complexity to the already volatile situation. Tensions in the West Philippine Sea have reached a boiling point, with rival navies locked in a high-stakes standoff. The atmosphere is electric, every ship's movement scrutinized, every decision carrying the weight of potential conflict. This isn't a movie, this is today's reality. It's September 28, 2025, and the world is witnessing a real-time crisis in one of the planet's most contested maritime regions, where history, ambition, and power collide. The incident is far more than a simple territorial spat. It's the sharp edge of a multi-trillion-dollar showdown over undersea resources. The stakes are enormous. Control over these waters could reshape Asia's future, determining who holds the keys to vast energy reserves. The world watches, holding its breath as millions tune in to live updates. In city squares and living rooms, people anxiously await the next development, knowing that the outcome could affect global stability. A Philippine vessel, on a routine resupply and survey mission, is blocked by massive Chinese ships. Beijing's message is unmistakable. This resource-rich area is off-limits to outsiders, and China is willing to enforce its claim with force if necessary. The U.S. Navy's response, citing freedom of navigation, adds another layer of danger. American warships now patrol the disputed waters, determined to uphold international law and ensure open sea lanes. This is the new front line of a 21st century Cold War, fought not just with weapons but with energy, security, and sovereignty at stake. The world's superpowers are now face-to-face, each unwilling to back down. The immediate trigger, Reed Bank or Recto Bank, a patch of ocean believed to hold oil and gas reserves worth over $26 trillion. Whoever controls this area could dominate the region's energy future. For the Philippines, these resources represent a potential economic lifeline, promising jobs, growth, and a chance to lift millions out of poverty. The stakes are deeply personal for many Filipinos. For China, Reed Bank is a non-negotiable part of its territory, a symbol of national pride and strategic necessity. Beijing's leaders vow to defend their claim at any cost. For the U.S., this crisis is a test of its commitment to allies and the rules-based international order. Washington faces pressure to act decisively, knowing the world is watching. Each side is locked in a dangerous dance of diplomacy, legal maneuvering, and military posturing. Behind closed doors, diplomats scramble for solutions, while generals prepare for the worst. A single miscalculation, a wrong move, a misunderstood signal, could ignite a conflict with global consequences, drawing in nations far beyond Asia. The world's eyes are fixed on these turbulent waters, where the future of energy, trade, and international law hangs in the balance. The outcome here could set the tone for global relations for decades to come. The headline is just the beginning. What happens next will shape the destiny of nations, and the world is waiting. The source of this friction lies deep beneath the West Philippine Sea. An estimated $26.3 trillion in oil and natural gas. Reed Bank is the crown jewel, believed to hold the majority of these reserves. For the Philippines, 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas could power the economy for decades, ending reliance on volatile imports. The oil reserves, while secondary, could slash the country's import bill and insulate it from global price shocks. But this treasure is locked behind overlapping territorial claims and geopolitical rivalry. The technology to extract it exists, but the political will and security guarantees do not. The immense value only hardens each side's resolve, turning a potential source of prosperity into a dangerous flashpoint. The $26.3 trillion prize is both a promise and a curse. For the Philippines, the West Philippine Sea is an existential issue. The country relies on imported fossil fuels, making it vulnerable to global price swings and supply disruptions. The Malampaya gas field, which supplies 20% of the nation's electricity, is running dry. Reed Bank's reserves could not only replace Malampaya, but transform the country's energy landscape. Developing these resources would stabilize prices, attract investment, and create thousands of high-paying jobs. The government would gain new revenue for infrastructure, education, and healthcare. It's the single most important economic opportunity of the century for the Philippines. This is why Manila stands firm. It's not just about territory, but about securing a future for over 110 million Filipinos. The West Philippine Sea is their economic lifeline. Looming over the Philippines' hopes and the future of the region is China's sweeping 9-line claim, a vast demarcation that covers nearly 90% of the South China Sea, an area rich in resources, vital shipping lanes, and strategic military importance. This controversial line includes much of the West Philippine Sea, waters that the Philippines considers its own, both historically and under international law. China bases its sweeping claim on so-called historical rights, a narrative that directly clashes with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, which sets clear maritime boundaries for all coastal nations. The 9-line disregards the exclusive economic zones, or EEZs, of the Philippines and other Southeast Asian nations, creating overlapping claims and fueling regional tensions. To enforce its claim, China employs gray zone tactics, deploying Coast Guard ships, maritime militia, and a constant presence in disputed waters to assert control without direct confrontation. These tactics often result in tense encounters and ongoing harassment of Philippine vessels, making routine patrols and fishing expeditions fraught with danger. The goal is clear: to establish de facto control over the area, solidifying China's presence without triggering open conflict or war. Yet the risk of escalation is ever present. One miscalculation or aggressive maneuver could quickly spiral into a larger crisis. A single misstep could trigger a clash involving the United States, a treaty ally of the Philippines, potentially drawing in other powers and destabilizing the entire region. The 9-line is more than just a line on a map. It's a bold declaration of intent by China, signaling its ambitions and willingness to challenge the international order. It remains a constant source of instability, sparking protests, diplomatic standoffs, and uncertainty for millions who depend on these waters. With over a third of global trade passing through the South China Sea, the world's peace, security, and commerce are all at stake in this high-stakes maritime dispute. Enter the Eagle, America's strategic pivot. The U.S. doesn't take sides on sovereignty, but fiercely defends freedom of navigation and the rules-based order. The 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty with the Philippines means any attack in the South China Sea could trigger U.S. involvement. U.S. Navy warships regularly challenge China's claims with freedom of navigation operations. American energy firms are key partners for the Philippines, signaling that interference could harm U.S. interest. The U.S. is ramping up military aid, joint exercises, and intelligence sharing with Manila. This is part of a broader Indo-Pacific strategy to counterbalance China's rise. The Philippines, at the front line, is a linchpin in this contest. The American Eagle has chosen to fly alongside the Philippines, turning a regional dispute into a global contest of wills. The stakes are no longer just regional, they're global. The world is watching. The West Philippine Sea's tensions are decades in the making, marked by standoffs and missed chances. Since the 1970s, the Philippines has tried to develop Reed Bank, but every move was blocked by Chinese patrols. In 2011, a survey vessel was chased away by Chinese ships, sending a chill through the energy industry. Diplomatic talks about joint development repeatedly stalled over legal frameworks and sovereignty. The result: resources remain untapped, locked away by legal and political deadlock. Each year of delay brings the Philippines closer to an energy crisis. The lesson: without legal and security backing, commercial ventures alone will fail. This history drives Manila's new, more assertive approach. In 2013, the Philippines took a bold step by taking China to court under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, known as UNCLOS, challenging the controversial 9-line that China used to assert its claims over the South China Sea. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration delivered a historic ruling overwhelmingly in favor of Manila. The court declared that China's historic claims had no legal basis, and affirmed that Reed Bank was within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. However, China rejected the ruling outright, dismissing it as null and void. Instead of backing down, China ramped up its activities in the region, increasing its naval presence and asserting its claims more aggressively. The tribunal's decision was a landmark moment for international law, setting a precedent for maritime disputes. Yet, it came with a significant limitation: there was no enforcement mechanism to ensure compliance. The ruling's true power lies in its legitimacy and the reputational cost for any nation that chooses to defy it. It serves as a moral and legal compass for the international community. Initially, the previous Philippine administration downplayed the award, opting for a more conciliatory approach. However, today's government has embraced it wholeheartedly, using it as the foundation of its foreign policy and maritime strategy. The 2016 Arbitral Award now serves as Manila's legal anchor, guiding its alliances, patrols, and resource development efforts in the region. The ongoing showdown is no longer just about territorial claims, it's about upholding a landmark legal victory and the principles of international law. The world is closely watching to see if the rule of law or the might of power will ultimately prevail in this high-stakes geopolitical drama. The stakes have never been higher, as the outcome could reshape the balance of power in the region for years to come. For the Philippines, the rewards of unlocking the West Philippine Sea are transformative energy independence, economic growth, and national pride. It would mean lower electricity costs, new jobs, and a stronger global voice. But the risks are just as great. China has shown it will use force to block exploration. A miscalculation could trigger conflict with devastating consequences. Economic retaliation is another threat. China is a major trading partner and investor. There's also the risk of overdependence on the US trading one form of subservience for another. Manila must balance asserting its rights with avoiding war and leverage alliances without losing autonomy. The margin for error is razor thin. The stakes, prosperity or peril for over 110 million Filipinos. The world holds its breath. The West Philippine Sea is more than a regional dispute. It's a global crossroads. 1/3 of global maritime trade, worth over $3 trillion annually, passes through these waters. Any conflict here would disrupt supply chains and trigger a global economic crisis. That's why nations from Europe to Australia now patrol these sea lanes, defending the principle of open, lawful navigation. The future hangs in the balance, stalemate, shared prosperity, or catastrophic escalation. The stakes are the future of international law, the balance of power in Asia, and the stability of the global economy. As Philippine ships approach Reed Bank, with Chinese and American vessels nearby, the world watches and waits. The $26.3 trillion showdown is a defining moment for our time.